Did you know that anyone aged over 16 in England can do an apprenticeship? My name's Bear, and unlike the majority of autistic people who struggle with employment and income, I've always found managing money easy, although like many of us, I wasn't taught how to save in school. If you're using the tips on Save Like a Bear, you can only optimise so far. Sometimes you just need to increase your income to give yourself more wriggle room, or perhaps to fund a 90-degree turn in life. Making money can be a bit of a puzzle, and questions from friends and family have made it clear that I didn't write about this enough when I started my blog. Let's rectify that today. The first piece of the puzzle is getting hired, and I covered in a previous instalment how our definition of getting hired has changed because so many of us have side incomes these days, and there are so many ways to make money. I also mentioned that I wanted to share with you a blogger's first-hand account of working as an apprentice before trying to earn a side income from blogging, and I learned a lot about apprenticeships from this, even though I knew about them before, having worked in management where we had apprenticeships. Did you know that anyone aged over 16 in England can do an apprenticeship? That was news to me because that's not what I witnessed in job ads when I graduated, but I think you'll find if you do have a degree that you can do an apprenticeship, and it's intended as retraining for a different career. I also said this. I learned about the pros and cons of apprenticeships from a blogger named Katie, and we only met because Katie had put a lot of time and effort and money into a blog that didn't give her the return she needed for it to be sustainable, and so I bought that blog. Definitely catch up on that later if you're curious about making money online, but today we're focusing on apprenticeships after school versus university versus retraining later in life to switch careers, which it turns out you can also do as an apprentice. Now, because I'm not a professional impersonator, or let's be honest, I just like to keep my impersonations to myself. I do some mean impersonations, but only when no one else is around. I've borrowed my mate Edith to lend us a voice today and bring Katie's words to life. And yes, Edith is a movie reference. If it's your first time here, let me know afterwards if you work out which movie I'm referring to, and if you catch up on anything I've done previously, it will probably be very obvious which movie I'm referencing. Let's find out, as Tony Stark would say, hint hint, nudge nudge, why if you're nothing without an apprenticeship, then you shouldn't have it.
Put your fanny in that seat and buckle up right now.
As a former apprentice, I can give you a true and honest account of what my experience was like doing an apprenticeship instead of going to university. I was an apprentice at one of the UK's leading digital marketing service providers. I got into my top choice universities after completing my A-levels and achieving good grades. However, I decided to turn the offers down, withdraw my applications and become an apprentice instead. Whether you choose to go to university, do an apprenticeship or get a permanent job is completely up to you. Don't allow anyone to force you in a direction you don't want to take. This is your future and your career, not theirs. An apprenticeship is a partly or fully government-funded scheme whereby you work at a company, usually full-time, for a temporary amount of time, between 1 to 5 years depending on the level, whilst gaining skills and learning on the job. Within that time, you work towards a qualification.
Is it? I don't know. That's what everyone's saying. Oh.
In my case it was a digital marketing diploma. You will be paid for being there, an annual salary or hourly wage, although it might be lower than the average minimum wage because apprentice minimum wage is lower. Annoying, I know. However, some companies are generous and pay you well. I was one of the lucky ones. Depending on the employer and apprenticeship provider, you will either get dedicated days to complete coursework for your qualification or you'll be doing it all on the job and being monitored. The hope at the end of an apprenticeship is to be offered a permanent role at that company or take your skills elsewhere. Either way, you've done the training you need to help build your career. There are so many advantages and disadvantages of doing an apprenticeship, so the ones I discuss are things that I've personally experienced. If you choose to do an apprenticeship, they might be different for you. Also, I can only share my experience as somebody who did a 1-year apprenticeship instead of going to university, after A-levels, aged 18 to 19, not after GCSEs.
Tell me more.
The pros: money. Regardless how much you earn for your apprenticeship, it's quite likely it'll be more than you're used to earning from part-time jobs during school/college.
$10. It's $5.
Also, as an apprentice, you're entitled to the same working rights as all of the other employers, so that includes holiday pay and any benefits your company offers. Free learning.
I understand. I'm sorry, what?
I'm not 100% sure on the ins and outs of how apprenticeships are funded. I'm sure you can find that info online.
Yeah, you should definitely believe everything you read on the internet.
No, don't look at it. Don't look at it. That's wrong. That's wrong.
The news never lies.
But most apprenticeships for school/college leavers are funded by the government and/or your employer. Essentially, you're getting on-the-job training and invaluable experience in the career you want for absolutely free. Unlike having to pay university fees, which gives you no practical on-the-job experience unless you do work experience or a placement year. Experience in comparison to your peers.
You gotta get better at this part of the job.
One of the biggest pros of doing an apprenticeship is that you'll get a head start against your peers who want the same career as you. It's definitely not a competition, but when you get a job because you have more experience than someone else your age, you'll be thankful.
It's clear to me that you were not ready for this.
Think about it like this. There's two people who are the same age, applying for the same job. One is fresh out of university after doing a 3-year course, and the other has a qualification in that field due to a 1-year apprenticeship and a further 2 years experience in the field. Who would you be more inclined to employ? Of course, it's not just experience that lands you a job. You actually have to be good at what you do and pleasant to be around, but you see my point, right?
Okay, it's not working out.
3 years more experience than your peers will become very helpful, and you should use it to your advantage. Opportunity to work at big companies. A lot of industry-leading big-name companies have apprenticeship schemes. Google, Microsoft, BBC, Virgin Media, John Lewis, Mercedes-Benz and RBS, to name but a few. Don't get me wrong, to get into these apprenticeship schemes is highly competitive, and goodness knows how many applications they get each year, but it gives you a chance to work there without needing any prior experience because they'll train you up. Start saving sooner. If you want to start saving money for your future or just so you can afford nice things, then you'll be able to, as you'll regularly be earning a decent sum of money.
But I'm ready for more than that now.
Pension. On the topic of saving money, it's now the law that every employer in the UK must offer you a workplace pension. It will benefit you to start your pension as early as possible, even if you only put in £2 per month. Sense of personal achievement.
Isn't it though? I don't know, that's why Edith is here.
For me, because I worked at a corporate company in a lovely big open plan office, I felt a huge sense of personal achievement. The wow, I've made it feeling definitely set in, and although I hadn't and still haven't made it yet, I like to think that I've had a pretty good start to my career. Possibility of a job. Okay, doing an apprenticeship doesn't guarantee you a job afterwards, neither does university. It completely depends on if your employer can afford to keep you on, your performance, and so many other factors.
You can be the smartest guy in the room, the most qualified, and no one cares. Unless you're flying around with a cape or shooting lasers from your hands.
Unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to stay on after my apprenticeship due to the company budgets not allowing another person in the team I wanted to be in.
Thank you guys for having me.
Luckily though, I got a new permanent role elsewhere pretty much straight away, and they accepted me based on the experience and skills I had gained from my apprenticeship. I truly believe that as long as you come across well in interviews and you can prove that you're good at what you do, the experience you've gained as an apprentice will eventually land you a job.
I'll give you about a 50-50 chance you're pretty awkward, so.
The cons.
You don't want any part of this.
Missing out on uni life. However, if you're like me and don't like excessively drinking and going out all the time, then this probably won't bother you.
I'm still not following. How many lemonades have you had?
If I really wanted to join in on the university life, then I knew I could go and visit my friends on weekends and go out with them. Being much younger than colleagues, I was the first ever apprentice that my company had taken on, so I was the youngest in my office, possibly the youngest in the whole company. Although, I was quite lucky that I have colleagues in their mid and late 20s, so I didn't feel super young. The age gap would be brought up every now and again, but it was amusing how some of my colleagues had been working for the company since before I was born. In my current job, I'm the youngest by about 10 years. This isn't really a problem for me because I get along with people of all ages, but it would sometimes be nice to have someone a similar age to me, expected to keep it up and do well. Because I have a good job and have started my career path at the age of 18, other people expect me to keep it up and do well my whole life.
You've got a lot of explaining to do.
Of course, the aim is to always do well, but when somebody else, especially somebody who you don't really know, starts telling you where you could be in 10 years' time, it's quite daunting.
You see things, you do things, you make choices. People look up to you. Even if you win a battle, sometimes they die.
I've listed many more good things than bad things. Most of the cons are things that other people assume about me, and I've never let that bother me too much because, like I mentioned in the intro, this is my career, not theirs. Just like job agencies, there are many apprenticeship agencies that you can sign up to and who provide the apprenticeship learning.
Initiating more now.
They let you know of apprenticeships that might interest you and help you to apply, all for free. Here's a short list of the agencies I had contact with when looking for an apprenticeship. Arch. They offer a huge selection of apprenticeships. Based in London, this was my apprenticeship provider. QA Apprenticeships for IT, digital marketing and business are based all around the UK. You can also apply to some apprenticeships directly on the employer's website.
I have a plan.
If there's a certain company you'd to work for, then take a look at their career page on their website and apply directly.
You know, it's funny, I thought Edith had an American accent, but I guess you can be whoever you want to be these days with a bit of knowledge and the right mindset and some text-to-speech software. One last thing, I don't have time today to delve into one of my favourite previous topics, which is self-worth and productivity, but just remember that point about whatever you decide to do, you set your own standard for success, and your reason for being isn't solely to impress other people at your own expense. If you found today useful, don't forget to test what the like and subscribe button do, and you'll want to catch the rest of the series next.
You're good? Good. How are you good? You turning me down?
The best way to get updates otherwise from Save Like a Bear is actually via my email newsletter, where I'll also send out a bonus guide on budgeting and mindset that you can use whether you've added a second income or not. Links to sign up to that are in the description. Go forth!